It's Divas That Care Radio. Stories, strategies, and ideas to inspire positive change. Welcome to Divas That Care, a network of women committed to making our world a better place for everyone. This is a global movement for women, by women, engaged in a collaborative effort to create a better world for future generations. To find out more about the movement, visit divasthatcare.com after the show. Right now, though, stay tuned for another jolt of inspiration.
Greetings. This is Akiki Daisy Kabagarama, proud host of Divas That Care. I'm honored to be with this group of ladies that are changing the world, talking to women all over the world and inspiring women all over the world so that we can change circumstances around us. And when you change lives of women, you change lives of men and children. As the Ghanaian proverb says, when you educate a man, you educate an individual. But when you educate a woman, you educate the whole village. And the village, of course, means the whole world. So today we are honored to have one of those women aspiring, rising to change lives all over the world. Sandra, good morning.
Good morning, Akiki. Thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, thank you so much. We are honored to have you on this very important show, Divas That Care. Can you please introduce yourself to us?
And I'm honored to be here and to, as I've been growing up, I've learned the importance of what you just mentioned, what it's like to enlighten women, and I'm so proud to be a woman, and I love to participate in empowering fellow women in any way I can. So as you mentioned, my name is Sandra Najuna. I am currently 33 years old. I have lived in the United States for about 8 years and 3 months. I am originally from Uganda. My first, 23 years were in Uganda, in East Africa, and that's where I did my first years of school and my very, very early years of my health career. And then I moved to the United States, and I currently hold the position of Senior Project Manager at an HIV nonprofit called AIDS Healthcare Foundation. They actually have a presence in 45 countries around the world, including, of course, the United States and Uganda, which is amazing because then it combines my two homes, and that's one of the reasons I love working for them. I currently work on the Ryan White contract, Ryan White being the money that's provided for HIV care as a payer of last resort. So that's after private insurance, after Medicare and Medical, whatever is not covered in any category will be covered by Ryan White for HIV care. Or if at all someone does not qualify for all the other insurances, then they will probably receive Ryan White funding. And so I do quality all those projects in about 25 states around the United States, and that's what I currently do. And while I do that, I'm also pursuing a doctorate at Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. I'm pursuing a doctorate in public health. And but besides that, I am a daughter, a sister, an aunt, and an all-round female just trying to change the world in any way I can.
Yes, indeed. That is wonderful. And yes, indeed, our topic for today, is impacting global health systems. And that's what you're doing. That's what is deep in your heart. And, using religious terms, that is your calling. That is wonderful. And what? I am honored. I have you as my first guest of May, the month of May.
Oh, nice. I'm honored.
And we'll be celebrating, mothers, Mother's Day.
Yeah.
And mothers, this includes all women who are doing the mothering. Maybe not necessarily the biological mothers, but all those who take care of us and love us and provide for us. And so I am very grateful. Actually, I wish you were around here because next Sunday I will be introducing to the public the story of my grandmother who lost her entire family in battle. And the book came out at the end of 2019. And so now the story is going out there, how this woman said to the world, without power, I wouldn't be here alive. So anyway, that is wonderful. And you have such an impressive resume. Thank you for explaining what you do. And now we know most about you. Well, you did share that you come from a family of 9 sisters.
Yes, actually, I may even have more. Because when you consider that we have an extended family, and so I may be from a family of even more females. We were talking about it. My mother had 9 girls. Yes. My mother had 9 girls, and I actually have 2 other sisters. My mother had 9 girls, and I'm the 9th of the girls my mother had. I'm the baby. But unfortunately, I didn't get to live for long with my mother. My mother died when I was about 7 years old. And we were very close, of course, being her baby. I used to follow her around everywhere, and I remember even the last days I just walk around everywhere with her. But to your point, a great thing to come out of this is that she had raised such amazing women that even when I remember one of my sisters, Jolie, who became my mother in that regard, always explains that when I was born, she was away at college, and my mother insisted that she comes back when I was going to be baptized, because my mother wanted my big sister to be my godmother. And that's odd. It's odd to have a sister be a godmother of their own sister, but my mother insisted. And I remember Jolie shared with me that when my mother passed, it was so obvious in her head, the way it had been set up, that my mother expected her to raise us to be the same kind of women that my mother would have raised. So my mother passed on these attributes of strength and tenacity and, business and loving school and loving work and loving people and community. Yes. She really passed them on to my sisters, that even though I've grown mostly without my mother, I'm exactly, I think, the way my mother would have raised me, because she raised women with those same attributes, and they imparted all that in me. And I know you posted Pros on the show before. So if you're raised by people like Jolie or Pros or Juliet, it's hard for you not to turn out to be the kind of woman that my mother was, to raise 9 women. So our family has been about passing on that torch. And right now, I don't have children of my own, but my nieces, who are my daughters from my sisters, oh my God. They will tell you that I'm very strict with them on how they should do, how they should dress, what their grades are like, how they treat people. Because I also want to pass that on to them, so that, we keep passing it on and, have a generation of great women. Yeah.
It runs in the blood. Oh, what
yes, it does.
Your mom knew, and all these others knew. Oh, my God. Actually, that ties into the question I had for you. I have for you. You can add on. The question is, how have the women in your family and outside the family impacted your life? You've explained, a little bit, but would you like to add on how women have influenced your life in a tangible way?
Yes, that's a very great question. When I guess I would start at home, like I explained, I was raised by women that were raised by a wonderful woman. And you know what's funny is that it's until you grow, you're growing older. Like now, that appreciative of the structure that the women in my life, who are mainly my sisters, I'm so appreciative of that structure. They fought so hard to instill in me. Because when I was younger, and Pros or Jolly, who are my sisters, who mainly raised me, when they tell me you have to be back home by this time, you need to do housework, and you have to balance this and that. At that time, it felt like, why are they making my life so difficult? But now that I've grown, and especially that I find myself in spaces where people wonder, how are you, a girl from a little village in Uganda, and working for a top nonprofit, or working or in a top public health school? How did you get there? And honestly, I also don't have an explanation, but the explanation must be from what my sisters instilled in me. That, you know, there's no opportunity too big, and then you have to really work hard. If you're hired somewhere, actually, most of my mothers or my sisters are human resource specialists. For some reason, they were all human resource people, and they would instill in you the importance of work ethic and showing up and effective communication with your boss. If I tell my sister Pros that, I need to be away for 2 weeks, but I don't know, she's like, make sure your boss knows ahead of time. You know, so they've just like instilled all these things in me that at this point, like when my peers are wondering how I do certain things, it's because of them instilling all these things in me. And then actually, interestingly, I've almost female bosses in my entire career. I think I can only remember one male boss I've had. In my entire career, I've had female bosses. And they've really paved a way, especially in the United States. When I was at the University of Southern California pursuing my master's, my mentor is named Heather Whipsley. She really showed me everything. And she had projects in Uganda. She set me up for a career in public health. And this is someone that you completely, we just met, and she decided to mentor me. We've been friends to date, and we partner. Even right now, we partner in a lot of things that she does. But and then my current boss is female as well. Her name is Julie. So I benefited so much from being surrounded by women, and even not just bosses, even like the people I surround myself with. Typically, for you to be a close friend, you're probably one of those women that empowers women and is a strong woman. Those are the kind of females I like to surround myself with. So it's all femininity for me, and I value that so much. Yeah.
That is wonderful. And as you were talking, I was laughing. I'm sure you saw your sisters as real old and boring. You know, and bored.
At that time,
why are they trying to spoil your fun?
Yes. But now I appreciate it. But now that I'm glad they did that.
Yes, you're saying angels, you know, with wisdom.
Yes. And now we are now very close friends. Actually, when I was younger, they really were like my moms, and they're like all over there. Right now, pretty much all my sisters are some of my closest friends, and I spend a lot of time on the phone with them, seeking guidance, or even, you know, giving guidance. So, at that time, they were like, oh, my God. But now, my best friend.
That's right. Even children will say, get a life, Mom. You are so boring. You want me bored. You know, and, but later on, it's like, oh,
they
my
appreciate.
God, look at me here. So that's wonderful. And you've already covered how you are inspiring other women. You know, I'm sure you're passing on the same skills to your nieces and those outside in the community. Oh, my goodness. I am so grateful. And so how do you get time to do all those things that you do that are listed on your resume and some not?
Right. Some that have not mentioned. Well, I guess like most scholars have mentioned, work-life balance is a myth sometimes. But I would like to say I think as I've grown older, there are certain managerial skills you learn, and then you start applying them in your own life, and that's like prioritizing. I definitely do a lot of prioritizing. I forget the scholar that had there's a quadrant that has like important, least important, urgent, and least urgent. Yeah, and then they show you. I wish I had a way of showing you physically, but like they show you like what item is very important and very urgent, and that's what you start with. And if something is very urgent but not important, it's the second. So like I actually do apply a lot of such managerial things in my life, and as I've grown older, like I would tell you, I prioritize family. If a family member calls me in the middle of a meeting or of class, I'm at least going to attend to them and find out. But besides that, so once I prioritize and know I'm going to make time for work, I prioritize mentorship so much because I feel like it's very important to give back. So I will actually have a day that's dedicated. I usually use like Fridays that are dedicated to reviewing people's resumes, or if I had to do a phone call, something regarding mentorship or write. Sometimes I'm asked to write recommendation letters. I plan my time and prioritize, make sure there's time enough, majorly for families, then for my family and those that are around me that depend on me. Once I'm able to do that, then I fit in the work. And maybe I'll say this too, and maybe for anyone that's considering like higher education out there, I always tell people that as you grow in your career, you actually start getting positions where you're paid not just for what you do, but for who you are. So I feel like my position is more like I'm expected to attend a meeting and give an opinion compared to me just like, spending a lot of time completing reports. That's not mainly my position. Because of that, I actually do not spend so much time doing my job. Because does that make sense? I don't spend a lot of time doing my job. I do my job diligently, but I don't spend a whole lot of time doing my job because a lot of roles, my boss has taught me to automate them. If a report is required, I will have IT set it up to be automated so that I don't spend a lot of time doing reports. I spend more time thinking, which is what I'm paid for. Then of course when I started my doctorate, I won't lie to you, some weeks are overwhelming and others are not. So if a week is not overwhelming, then I find time and visit friends, and I do a lot of community work as well, and I probably explain as we go on, which is organizing health fairs or health events, or just attending to people that have questions about healthcare in the immigrant community of Uganda. So, I don't know. So, again, work-life balance is a myth in there, and you get it done.
Yes. That is wonderful. Yes. Oh, my goodness. I appreciate you. And you just started too. Oh, my God. There's a whole future waiting
a whole lot
for you.
To do.
And you've accomplished so much. So let me ask you this question that is specifically related to women. As we know, there are systems out there. You as an individual may be accomplished, you have your ambitions, you have what you feel you are called to do, but we also know that systems are there that can close doors in your face. And, gender is one of those variables that causes women to even back off right from childhood,
Right.
And so however accomplished you are, there is a system that may not even think about you as capable of doing that. So how do you address those system issues? I'm sure when you go, to Africa and other places, and even in the United States. So as an accomplished woman, as you said, as a thinker, you want to impact the world, but there are also systems out there. So how do you address those? The glass ceiling, you claim to climb, but then you find there's a glass ceiling stopping you from getting where you need to go.
Right. Oh, that is a great question that I'm even thinking of a way to approach it. So I guess I would start with, first of all, like even before I went into public health, or even as part of my journey in public health, my background is in statistics. So I'm a mathematician. And I don't know about the United States, but where I in school in Africa, when you went to the science classes or the math classes, you mostly found boys or men. It was rare to find girls in there. Yeah. So I actually, one of those male-dominated fields, and I had to figure out my position in a very male-dominated field growing up, because there were not a lot of people doing mathematics, and I'm talking like having mathematics as your major for bachelor's, like that's all you're doing, math. So the professors were male, the classmates were male, and I remember, I guess in a weird way, like when you're growing up, you haven't yet fully understood, or at least at that time I hadn't fully understood that sometimes like that can be a hindrance. And which brings me to my first point of how I address this, one, representation. And at that point, when I realized, especially when I went to Makerere University for my bachelor's, I realized we have such few women in this field.
That's my university. Hey, welcome.
Thank you.
Yes,
so at that point, I felt it was important for me to represent, which is my first point, representation. You need to find, because like even in my family, we had not had a lot of females that were pursuing mathematics careers. I was like, great, so now I'm going to be the first one for my nieces to see that this is something that's possible. When you find yourself in a position as a female in a male-dominated field, you have to represent. Now, it's that extra pressure on you to make sure that you do your work diligently, you succeed. I sat on the tables with, and I feel like eventually I did earn the respect of my peers, and they were not looking at me as a female, but as just a fellow mathematician. And when it was time to excel, we excelled. If I had a problem, I approached them, and and then of course as you grow older, then you become aware of the systemic barriers to being a female, even that come. And something as simple as like if you have a baby, or you have to take time off because that's it's that time of the month and you're not feeling well, or or is the workplace built. Recently, one of my workmates was returning to work, and she had been off maternity leave, and she needed to pump. Do we have a workplace that's built for her to take off that time to pump without affecting her duties? And then with that, I will bring it to the second point, which is advocacy. If you're a female, or the times I've been a female, and I realize that there's a systemic barrier at my workplace, then you have to speak out. You say, we need a place where someone can go and pump, or we need time off. I heard New Zealand these days gives, I think first of all, they have extensive maternity leave, but they also give time off if it's that time of the month and someone feels like they don't have to show up and they would like to stay in the comfort of their homes, So I've learned to advocate. If there's something that I feel like that's going to be a barrier for me as a woman, even if it's going to be an inconvenience for me to speak up, I will speak up, because the women that are coming after me will appreciate that I set up something that helps them become more comfortable. And then I guess I'll end with a point of representation, but then at a higher level. This is that the higher you go in a career level and you get to the point where you're making decisions, then now you even take your representation more seriously, because we want to have healthcare boards where every healthcare board needs to have a female on there for sure, and even then even represent all these other marginalized groups. And when you're on there, you make sure you check in with your fellow women and find out what are the recent trends that are affecting us, and then you address them. So that's how I plan to do it going forward, like being very cognizant of my position as a female in a place of influence, and making sure that I speak out for my people, for them to be as comfortable as our male counterpart.
Yes, that's wonderful. And that when certain talent is not included, our world suffers. Many of the global issues we face today and national issues are because of that simple fact. We haven't heard
Right.
from certain voices. And are we suffering? Yes, we are. So I appreciate that. I agree with you 100%. Yeah, because those are the things that we are involved. We should get involved in and change our world. That's why I love working with divas that care and other organizations, and even just planting some there, or even just being there, being seen, just there,
being seen.
Someone says, "Oh my God, someone is there. How did she get there?" You know?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah,
and maybe
so
I'll add just a little bit to that. That I'm not saying that like it's easy. There have been so many circumstances as a woman that, for instance, let's say you, like even when you're in a relationship, and sometimes like when you're quote unquote empowered woman, especially in the African context, you're seen to be one that will not be submissive. I'm like, you're going to that girl, she's going to give you such a hard time. Or you're a lot of times when as a woman you're forced to belittle yourself, supposed to be belittling yourself to fit in a circumstance, and those are the waters we have to navigate as women, and that doesn't continue shrinking ourselves, but taking up our spaces and showing men that there's actually a benefit in having an empowered woman. Like,
yes, that's right. That's right.
So I don't say that because it's easy.
Yeah.
You're
talking about women. I grew up in Africa. I had actually 3 statements. One was someone said, actually, graduate of the university, if an African woman becomes president, I will leave the continent.
Right.
And guess what? What I told him, I said, I'd be glad to be there to say bye to you. You know? And then I remember hearing, I don't want parliament in my house. An educated woman will bring parliament. Oh, my God.
And you'll be surprised we still have such mentalities. Like, you'll be surprised that all these years later we still have such mentalities. And so I always say, like, I'm proudly who I am, and if you stay around me long enough, you'll see what the benefits are, and I'm not going to apologize or explain myself. And again, that ties back to growing up in a family of strong women, so that then you learn that I have sisters, I see them, they're strong and they're good mothers, they're good wives.
Yes. And I had one guy say, "Well, I am the one who wears pants in my house, and I don't want that to change." Wow.
Right.
What have well? Anyway, some of it is it's kind of, you have to laugh. You have to have a sense of humor there. But then there are gentlemen who have really accepted and to work with educated women, and they see what benefits. And I keep on saying that, you know what? We are not after competing or letting you down.
Right.
In fact, we'll uplift you. You see what I mean? The women think differently.
We do.
So that useless competition, who wants it? Who has time for it? So more and more, some people are getting, a little change, but there is still work to do, as we know. Oh, my goodness. I wish we could go on and on and on and on.
I know.
Question. All this work you're doing, and in Africa also, and you have Africa, that's your passion there, and it's mine too, but we can talk about that later. However, how would you like our listeners to help you in your work? If someone who is listening and says, "Oh, I want to take up that cause," what would you like them to do?
So right now, like I mentioned, I'm partnering with my mentor, Heather Whitley. She started an organization with her son called Ray United FC. It started as a football championship, but we turned it into a non-profit, and that's Ray United FC. And I'll share that website with you. It's one of the organizations we are using to do work in Africa, in Uganda, tackling so many public health topics. And I will also mention that AIDS Healthcare Foundation, whose website is aidshealth.org. It does so much work in Africa, and because I already work with them, I'm always working, figuring out opportunities to partner with them in Africa as well. And then even through my school, Johns Hopkins, I haven't established a website per se, but even the whole, I'm going to write my dissertation surrounding health systems in Africa and how we can solve some of the problems that, with a dissertation, you figure out one problem and try to solve it. And right now I'm working with my advisor to work on that. And even then, maybe the last thing I'll talk about, again, no website, but I partner with the Uganda, California. I forget what it's called, but it's a community of Ugandans in Southern California. The acronym is UCOC, to make sure that the Ugandans here that have just recently arrived and that are immigrants are taken care of. And I address their health issues, not just, but these days I understand it's not just the Ugandans in Uganda, even the Ugandans that are just arriving here, need help addressing health issues. So if someone can send me an email, I can definitely send them information on how they can be involved, because some of them are not on websites because we're still making progress, but we are definitely doing a lot of work with those four organizations.
Oh, sure. And you can send whatever extra information you have to me, and then I will make sure that it's available, that our viewers can see this information, and that is wonderful. Okay.
Yeah.
Well. I appreciate this time with you, and good luck in all that you do.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored. I'm so honored to be hosted. Yes, thank you very much.
Thank
God
you.
bless.
Do you have, just a second before we close, do you have any specific question you want me to ask you, or would you like to add on anything, that maybe I've left out? Yes.
Well, I will add that I'm grateful for platforms like this, because, that's really all we need as women. Platforms like this where we talk about some of these things, because it's until you're asking me some of these questions that I even realized I'm doing some of this work. So I'm grateful for platforms like yours, Divas That Care, where women empower each other and share what they're doing, and that it has actually inspired me to be more vocal about what I do as a woman, especially to women. And as many women educated and as many women on these in places of influence and places of power, so that they can then be part of the decision making, and we'll see a world that understands that women have, of course, definitely the same capabilities, but women are more compassionate, so we'll definitely see a more compassionate world, a more effective world. And I'm just excited about being a woman and partnering with organizations like yours and being part of platforms like this to share my story and to listen to other stories from everywhere. Yeah, so thank you so much. I'm honored for being hosted today.
Wonderful. We're honored to have you, and good luck in everything you do, and we'll keep in touch. I'm also trying to assemble, resources of women out there, since you stayed in Uganda for a while. I've been here for almost 40 years now. So maybe we'll get some contacts that can, that we can work with on a larger scale, and do great things. Change history. Change the whole world,
Yes.
Thank you.
One woman at a time, yes.
Indeed, that's right. Okay. You have a good Sunday. And
thank you so much. Soon. Have a good Sunday as well. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. This show was brought to you by Divas That Care. Connect with us on Facebook, on Instagram, and of course on divasthatcare.com, where you can subscribe to our newsletter so you don't miss a thing.